Hey everyone, welcome to a quick little lecture on JFK, who was our president from 1961 to 1963. One of the big parts of his presidency was the election against Richard Nixon, who had been the vice president for Dwight Eisenhower. Nixon was kind of expected to win it. JFK, he totally out campaigned him. Uh, JFK was young, new. Nixon was kind of old. Um, Big part about it is it was the first televised Debate. I want you guys to watch the clip that is over here on the right and just see how they play against each other. Look at the body language, the confidence that they put forth, and you can see why why Kennedy was the choice of the nation. When he got elected, they kind of called it this thing called Camelot. You know, the idea of King Arthur and the Round Table. A new day is dawned for America. Um, his wife was Jackie Kennedy, which is this nice, lovely lady right here. You can see that she was a fashion setter, very glamorous. Their marriage and everything. Kennedy, he was our youngest president. One of those things, though, about presidents and ones with egos is that they do tend to cheat on their wives, which Kennedy was synonymous for. He did pick some good advisors. Two that I want to mention is one, Robert McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense. He was huge in the 60s. He dealt with Cold War issues. He dealt with the Vietnam War and was very influential. And then also Bobby Kennedy, who was Kennedy's Attorney General. It is his brother. Many people believe that Bobby Kennedy helped push John F. Kennedy to do some of the things that he did in connection to advancing civil rights. Now, one of the big things Kennedy dealt with, though, is foreign relations. All right, what we dealt with is the Cold War. Two things that he did that were kind of minor but still have lasting impacts today is one is he created the Green Berets. These are our first kind of like commandos, these are our special forces groups. Um, this is the first special force group, and they were experts at basically training different indigenous people to then fight our enemies, the communists. This comes to play in North Vietnam, South Vietnam. The people up here are the Hmongs, which, if you ever seen the movie Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood, we have a Hmong population in Minnesota, and why we have it is because of the Vietnam War. And on the right, you have the Peace Corps, young college-educated people going around the world teaching English, building homes, yeah, doing different things, sustainable farming, all of that. In Kennedy's short presidency, he had several kind of big Cold War things come up. One of the first ones is the Bay of Pigs. The CIA, they trained Cuban exiles, about 1,500 of them, to invade Cuba. They landed on a beach. They were supposed to be joined by anti-Castro groups and Cubans. But then, and this happened April 17th, 1961, and I have a misprint right there. The training had been reported by the New York Times. So when the people landed on the beach at the Bay of Pigs, Castro was there and was able to capture a lot of them, and it was a failed coup attempt against him. One of the numerous times we've tried to overtake Fidel Castro. The second is the Berlin Wall, and this is where John F. Kennedy, kind of found his own feet. Kennedy sparred off against Khrushchev, who was the premier of the Soviet Union. They met in Vienna in June of 1961. Khrushchev wanted the NATO forces out of West Berlin. If you remember from our early Cold War stuff, West Berlin was in the heart of East Germany. And Khrushchev wanted the U.S. not to let East Germans go to West Berlin and then leave because it made them look bad. Kennedy said, nah, we ain't going to do it. And then on August 13th, the East Germans started to build the Berlin Wall, which is synonymous with the Cold War. And we'll teach you guys more about it later on. Here is one picture of them building it. As you can see, it greatly disrupted lives. It was a little bit willy nilly. One day you are in West Berlin on one side, and then on the next day, you can be on East Berlin on the other side. Here are two more pictures of the wall. You can see, they just had workers there. They had concrete blocks, they had cinder blocks, and they just started tossing it up. Kids playing on the wall. In later years, it started to get tons of graffiti on it. It was very interesting. One of the big things that happened was John F. Kennedy flew into West Berlin and at the Brandenburg Gates spoke. I want you to go ahead and watch this clip of him speaking there. He kind of spoke for the Western world, versus the Soviet comments. One of his most famous lines is "Ich bin ein Berliner," which, find out what you think that means, and then, realize it might actually mean something else to some other people. And his third kind of big thing was the Cuban Missile Crisis. In 1962, we found out that the Soviets were building missile launching sites in Cuba. As you can see by the map, with them being there, they can hit Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, D.C. They can hit anywhere in the United States. He had different stuff from his advisors. Some said do an airstrike. Some said invade. Others said do a blockade, which became the quarantine. Look at how I use that word. And as you can see, we actually, as you've learned about, we quarantined them. The Soviets backed down, and everything turned back to as normal as it could be in the Cold War. One of the most famous parts of JFK is his inaugural address. If you ask your folks right now, pause this and say, hey, what did JFK say in his inaugural address? They'll be able to tell you. I want you to read it. There is a link right here that you guys can use. And as you read it, do the questions that go below it. Think about it a little bit. And later on in the week, we'll do some stuff about civil rights and some really juicy, cool history stuff. Have a good one. Thank you.